hopefully we're recording. When I started Hope's Hope, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know exactly what Hope's Hope was going to be. Things just kind of happened, and I met a lot of people that knew Hope, and so I was somewhat able to kind of infiltrate her world. I just really wanted to see what had, what her life was like, and had this horrible image of, when she'd disappear at times, that she was, laying under a bridge somewhere. Because that's the image you get in movies or whatever, people tell you. I couldn't have been further, that couldn't have been further from the truth. I met so many people that loved that girl, and that she helped, and just brighten their day just by her mere existence. Along with that world came a lot of people who use, and I learned kind of early on about Narcan, and you never know when you're going to need it, so keep it handy. Learn how to use it first, because if somebody hadn't told me what to do, I certainly would not have used it in the proper manner. And getting to that, about a month and a half ago, I had given someone a ride, and it was into the projects. And when we first pulled in, there was something laying there in the road, and I thought it was just a blanket or something, but then these two people came out, and it was a person. We picked him up, went over, laid him on the sidewalk, and then I heard he's dead. So I jumped out and ran over there, and he had overdosed. So ran back, got my Narcan, brought it over. Had both kinds, the nasal spray and the injection. Handed it to one guy. He did the nasal stuff, and while I was pumping the dude's chest, nothing was happening. Another guy hit him with a needle of Narcan. Still nothing. So that fella said, "Here, move, let me pump. You give him mouth to mouth." I said, "Okay." And then another guy hit him with a third round of Narcan. It was dark, and it was a young black man. So I really couldn't tell anything. I just did what I needed to do to try and bring him back. And that third shot of Narcan apparently did it. He just opened his eyes, and he sees me, and I came up off of his mouth, and he said, "What are you doing kissing me?" I thought, man, this dude has no clue. And he looked around at everybody. He said, "What's going on?" And we told him, "Man, you're dead. You OD." "No, I don't do drugs." I said, all we care about your okay. And so he was. Paramedics arrived, and he pretty much just took off. He didn't want to answer any questions or whatever. I guess he was afraid he was going to get in trouble. But I really thought that saving someone's life would make me feel different, but it didn't. It didn't make me feel. Didn't make me feel any way. It made just kind of sad. That was on a Friday night. Saturday night, went back over to the same place, and a girl was ODing. But she was with other people that had already, they took care of her. She was coming around. It's like, this is ridiculous. So Sunday afternoon, started kind of wondering where my roommate was. And I walked back to the bathroom. The door was locked. And he wasn't answering. So I beat on the door, and he was not answering. And I got down below and looked underneath it, and I saw him laying on the floor. So I went and got a hammer and a screwdriver. And anyway, I got in, but he was gone. He wasn't breathing. But he had a hell of a real hard, strong heartbeat. Called 911, and they told me what to do. So I would, pumped his chest, and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. Repetitions of 23. I don't know what that means, and I didn't ask, and I still don't know, but when I first walked in the door, he was laying there. His head was in a pool of bloody mucus. It was coming out of the side of his mouth and his nose. And then I realized later that his heart was beating like that because his respiratory system had shut down, and his heart was trying to beat enough to get the fluid out of his lungs. Basically, he was laying there drowning, which is exactly what happened to Hope. She drowned. About that time, the EMS arrived. I mean, he would take a breath like every 20 to 30 seconds, and so I felt like he was going to be okay. EMS got there, they carried him out of the house and got him into the ambulance and worked on him on his way to the hospital. And he was fine. But I think that was a true overdose. Last night was another story. A friend of his came over, had a couple girls with him, and he brought him a Xanax. He'd been having a bad day. Dealing with not being able to see his child, so he just needed something to calm his nerves. Well, he took that Xanax, he snorted it. And he immediately went down. I was laying on the sofa in the living room, and I heard his friend called his name, wake up, wake up. Well, this dude is pretty hard to wake up, so I thought, well, why don't y'all just go ahead and leave and let him rest. Well, then they ran out the back door. And I ran out there and said, what's going on? He said, we're getting the Narcan. So I ran, got mine, and went on back to the bedroom. And oh my God. I had heard people talk about, lips being blue or purple or whatever, but his entire face, his head, his neck, everything was purple, a deep purple. And I just immediately started pumping on his chest, and it was so hard. He looked bloated, his chest was out, and later on I realized what that was. But they got back in there. He gave him the nasal mist, and while I got my shot ready, and he was pumping on his chest, and the girl called 911. He was not responding. He was gone. He was gone. And I thought, we can't give up. So by this time EMS had answered, and I said, Elliot, I can't pump his chest anymore. I don't have the strength. So he got on top of him, and I mean, he was having to push hard himself. And in the interim, I stabbed him and gave him that shot of Narcan. Turned around, got another vial ready. Elliot didn't give up. EMS kept telling him to give him repetitions of 23. Rapid repetitions of 23. And, I pulled him forward on the floor so that he would be, neck, everything positioned right. And then finally, fluid started coming out. And that's what it was. That's why his chest was so puffed out there, because his lungs were filled with fluid. He was drowning. And EMS, they give him mouth to mouth. So since Elliot had kind of busted the water loose, I was able to start pumping his chest again, and Elliot gave him mouth to mouth, and then there he came. He woke, his eyes came open, and we're able to slap him awake and get him up, and he looked around and he said, what's going on? And I was so angry because I thought that he had done it again. And he was okay. We brought him back. He was okay. But he was fully 100% completely gone. No breathing, no heartbeat, no nothing, and purple. Lavender purple. And how somebody can go from that to standing up, breathing, shaking it off, and being as though nothing ever happened. And he was that way because the Narcan saved his life. After I talked to him, I thought he had done heroin, and he said no. He said, all I took was a Xanax. A Xanax bar. He said, I crushed it up and snorted it. He said, and then next thing I remember, y'all are waking me up. I said, Eric, you were dead. I mean, you were dead. Technical term. So clearly, and so the EMS got there, the police got there, you know, I talked to them, and it's the same old story. Everybody that's there that's trying to save his life, as soon as they see the cops roll up, well, they want to scatter, because I guess they're afraid they're going to get in trouble somehow, some way. But that's not true. They even if you are standing there holding drugs, they may take them from you, but they're not going to arrest you. And he said, I want to tell all you kids something. You've got to be careful, because there's some really bad shit going around right now. Really bad shit. And people are taking fentanyl, they're mixing it with whatever and pressing it into pills. So you don't know whether you're getting a pain pill, you don't know if you're getting Xanax. You don't know what the hell you're getting. But 2 times in the last 5-6 weeks, this young man died on me. 2 times. I brought him back. I don't know. I do know that he wouldn't be here now if it hadn't been for me. Especially that first time, he would have laid back there in that bathroom for I don't know how long. And that's exactly what happened to Hope. She wanted to get high. She didn't have any idea that what she was getting ready to put in her veins was going to kill her. But you know, when I went in that morning and I found Hope, you know, and I put my hand on her shoulder, and I was going to turn her over, and it was like turning over a piece of plywood. She was already set. Rigor was set. What I thought were bruises was lividity, where the blood had pooled into her abdomen. Little arm, her little hand that was over the side of the bed. You know, all the blood had run down into her fingers. And I just sat there and I rubbed her fingers, and I rubbed her arms and her legs. But first of all, I pumped the hell out of her chest, and that was the most god-awful sound. I knew she was gone, but I could not do anything. And I did it for a while, pump, 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 pump. I didn't even know what Narcan was back then. I mean, you know, I wasn't educated on it, let me put it that way. And I should have been, because the last time that Hope OD'd and I was called up to the hospital, I talked about this before, when the chaplain called me, and I was like, please don't say it. When I said that they had to give her Narcan intravenously, it wasn't just intravenously, they put it in her her main artery right here. That's how imminent she was. Nothing else was going to work. And they had hit her with that. You know, they just kept that IV going. That they had to come in and release a shot of the Narcan just every few minutes for, I don't know, it was like 20 times in a 30-minute period. But when I walked in there into that ER and I saw my little girl laying there fighting for her life, that big old needle in her neck, yeah, something broke in me that night. But what amazed me, the same thing, it's like last night. I mean, you know, Eric just got up and he walked out in the backyard to talk to those people. Those people, the first responders. But the nurses told me and Mom, you know, to try to keep her awake while the Narcan was doing its job. And then she started grumbling at me, "Mama, stop. Mama, stop. I just want to sleep." I said, "You can't sleep. If you sleep, you'll die." "No, I won't." "Yeah, you will." And then she asked me to leave, and I didn't have any choice. I mean, it wasn't probably 20 minutes later, after I left her room, they unhooked the IV. She got up, picked up her belongings, walked right outside, just walked straight out of the hospital. That's how important it is to have that on hand, because just a few minutes is all the difference there is in the world in living and dying. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to the needle exchange today to re-up on the Narcan, because it just seems like I mean, it's like in parking lots in Walmart and, you know, other grocery stores and fast food restaurants. I worked at a grocery store, and somebody OD'd in our bathroom about every, I'd say, minimum twice a week. Go in there and they would be laid out, OD. But I couldn't bring my baby back that morning. She'd been gone. It approximated 7 hours. There's no coming back from that. But I do know that she didn't suffer. She didn't know she was dying. She just closed her eyes and she went to sleep. And the good Lord came and snatched her. He said, "Girl, you're not living this life anymore. You're coming with me. We got bigger things to do." One of the things that has upset me so badly, when I was on my way down to Troy to pick her up from prison, I talked to God most of the way down there, and I thanked Him. I said that had to be the most horrible thing for you to have to do, is to sacrifice and to give your only begotten Son so that the rest of us would have eternal life. And I was in tears, and I was thanking the Lord for doing that, and just said, I can't imagine your pain. 32 days later, He takes Hope. The irony of that. I mean, come on, what the hell? But one thing I can say, of all the times that it could have happened, that she overdosed while she was out there at other people's houses, and I would have had to go and identify her body. The Lord did give me that. My sweet baby died in her own bed, and she was with people who loved her. There were no strangers, and I made sure that she was treated with respect. Four years. It's been 4 years. And you look around and everybody else, and you know, the people that knew her, even her grandparents, her aunt, her dad, not her dad, cousins, whomever. Life goes on for everybody, but not for me. I'm stuck, and I forever will be stuck. I'm stuck in that day. I'm stuck in that moment. Grief is an evil bitch. Evil fucking bitch. You don't know when you're going to have a good day. Well, none of your days are good, ever. After you lose a child, you don't have a good day. They don't exist. You have a day because you don't have any choice. And your days pass, your hours pass. The feeling gets different. This is one wound that time doesn't heal. Not at all. But she's alive here and here. And her spirit surrounds me. And the times when I absolutely do not think that I can take another step something almost miraculous happens and turns that feeling around. And it's her. It's always her. It's her little spirit rushing in and saying, Mom, you're doing great. You're doing great. Just keep it up. It's so hard to do without her. It's so hard to be in this world without her. But I'll keep fighting. I go down to my knees quite a lot. Quite a lot. But somehow I managed to get back up and go again. Wow, look at me. I've actually saved a couple lives by doing such. To shout it from the rooftops. You don't want to be me. You don't ever want to feel this feeling. And for all you people out there that don't believe that substance use disorder is a disease, addiction if you will, you don't believe that's a disease, I pray to God it never happens to you. I hope it never happens to your child. And this is me shouting from the rooftops. Get them help. Don't put them in jail. Get them rehab. Get them therapy. Do anything but lock them up. Someone with substance use disorder, they feel bad enough about themselves as it is. And then society makes them feel that much worse. You know, who are you to pass judgment? Who are any of us to pass judgment? None. No one has a right. But yet everybody does it. Come August 31st, we're going to paint this world purple. International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st. When I say we, everybody that knows me, you know who we are. And we hate the position we're in. but we are going to use that position so that nobody else one day nobody else will have to suffer. Like Hope said, Mom, I just don't want anybody else to have to suffer like I have. That's why I want to finish my school, and that's why I want to become a counselor and help people like me.